Hi, Washington Street friends. My name is Ann Jessup, and I'm happy to be sharing a devotion with you today. This past weekend, Harvey and I took a trip up to the mountains of North Carolina and did what we love doing most together, which is hiking in the woods. Now, we spend a lot of our free time hiking together, and we love to hike, especially in the mountains and in the woods. And this weekend didn't disappoint us. We ended up going up to a trail that was a loop, and typically whenever we look for a trail, we're looking for one that has a spectacular overlook on a mountain or a spectacular view of waterfalls. And this one was just a loop that really didn't promise anything but a walk in the woods. And as we approached that loop, there was a little sign there that said, "We hope that you will take this trail slowly and enjoy what nature has to offer." And so that's what we did. Now, typically when we go on trails, we choose ones that are a little bit more difficult to walk on. And so there are lots of roots that we have to be very careful about. There are lots of rocks that we have to step over. And I have a tendency to spend my entire time on a trail looking down, because falling would not only bruise my body, but it would bruise my ego. And I don't want that to happen when I'm walking with Harvey. So we went on this trail, and there were roots and rocks. And we decided that we were going to follow those directions. And each time we approached a root or a rock, or had spent a little bit of time walking and stepping over those things, we would stop and look up and listen and enjoy what God's creation had to offer in that moment. And it was really miraculous. I've enjoyed that trail almost as much as I've enjoyed the spectacular lookouts and the waterfalls that we've seen. And when I came home, I realized that there was a devotion in this, and it has to do with where we focus. Now, I spend a lot of time focused on roots and rocks in my life. Those rocks of regret that won't go away, and those roots of worry that tend to really take over my mind sometimes. And I know as humans, we all have a tendency to do that. But if we stop and change our focus away from the roots and the rocks, sometimes we can see the miracles and the blessings that are happening in our lives. With this, I'd like to share a reading from Jesus Always that goes along with this little thought. Many of my followers are so focused on the problems they see and the predictions they hear that they lose their joy. It becomes buried under multiple layers of worry and fear. When you realize this has happened in your life, bring all your concerns to me. Talk with me about each one, seeking my help and guidance. Ask me to remove the anxious layers that have buried your joy. As you entrust your concerns into my care and keeping, your joy will begin to emerge again. Just like when we stopped on that rooty and rocky trail and looked around and listened to the beauty of God's creation, we can stop and pause from our worries and from our regrets and from the things that are really giving us anxiety, and look at the wonderful things that God is doing in creation right in front of us. I'd like to end with this scripture that encourages me. It's from my favorite psalm, Psalm 139, and I'd like to read to you verses 16 through 18. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They are innumerable. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up in the morning, You are still with me. I hope you'll take this reading from the Psalms and remember that God's precious thoughts about you are always with you. Even when you're walking on a rooty and rocky path, God's thoughts are innumerable about you. And when you wake each morning, God is still with you.